Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, Tommy Robinson is back. Today he is on the PBD podcast and the headline reads, Muslims would kill Andrew Tate. Alright guys, let's get into the video, but before we do so, as always, if you enjoy my content, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, check out the links in the description box below, especially my new ebook, The Return. Here I talk about my journey from Orthodox Christianity to Islam, converting to Islam, becoming a Muslim, just like Andrew Tate, dear Tommy Robinson. But matter of fact, I speak about everything that happened in between, be it the New Age, be it Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, veganism even, or simply raw meat eating and all kinds of other experiments that in the end, alhamdulillah, led me to Islam. Alright guys, and now with no further ado, let's have a look.
Say they're holding an ISIS flag. If the police went in and tried to stop them, there's a riot, and the police know it. So constantly they just allow it. That you saw the Palestinian demonstrations, you saw the hatred, they're calling for gassing the Jews. Literally the most hatred we've seen on our streets of our capital city, and the police are standing there, big smiles on their faces. Yet if it was a British...
How much influence do Jews have in UK?
Jews are a very small community in the UK. Now there's obviously the conspiracy which comes from the genuine Nazis and far right, that the Jews control everything. I think if they control everything and they control the media, they're not doing a very good job, are they? Because everything's attacking them. And
Alright guys, so we are on YouTube, so therefore I have to be very, very, very careful of what I say. But first and foremost, we of course have to make it understood that Tommy Robinson is a self-declared Zionist.
You didn't buy nothing?
Shalom. Harry, listen, let me tell you something. Yeah? If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session. If there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel. Do you know why? Why not? Why not? It's like Celtic. I had some one of my mates' dads come up to me earlier talking about Celtic. Like, oh yeah, but you're Celtic Rangers. You know what I mean? Palestine. Palestine. Why would you support Palestine?
Yeah, there you heard it from himself, and there's of course much more evidence pointing to Tommy Robinson being a hardcore Zionist indeed. But nevertheless, that being said, he made the argument, and again, I have to be very, very careful here, but he made the argument that if that group is controlling the media, then they're doing a very, very poor job at it because they are always being attacked. Okay, keep in mind there's of course all kinds of media manipulation, and what is very, very effective indeed is the victim narrative. If you paint a certain group of people as a victim, then that group gathers sympathy. So this is a card that could be potentially played here as well, of course, dear Tommy.
Yeah, because there was a tweet exchange between you and Dan Bilzerian, I believe. Rob, if you want to pull that one up, there was... Do you have it? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Where slavery, money, and then you responded back to him. Let's see which one it is. I'll pull it up here. He said, you will remain a slave as long as you worship money. May 31st. He said this at one of Tate's tweets. You respond back, said, Iran's bitch talking about escaping slavery. Dan's been very critical of Jews, right? Very. And I don't know if Tate, do you and Tate have a relationship together?
So me and Tate, before he was Tate, we're from the same town. So yeah, we do. Yeah, we're friends.
Friends still today?
Friends still today.
Till today.
So so what's happened is, this is my view. So if you look at Qatar spent...
But you know what, I want to preface this. The reason why I'm saying this is, if Jews are as powerful as they are, and they own all these politicians around the world, how is UK in the state that it is, where Muslims are able to do what they're doing, with getting away with it? If Jews have this...
Yeah, Patrick Bay David is creating a hypothetical here. If that group truly was in control of certain politicians, what then? Why is that happening? I mean, all you have to do is look into APEC. So here we are on the international APEC homepage, apec.org, and as we all know by now, APEC is a huge lobbying group within the government of the United States, and therefore to say that there is absolutely no control coming from Israel would be a huge understatement, to say the very least. I mean, here on their own page, if you scroll down, you can read a national movement of pro-Israel Americans. And this is, of course, very deceptive as well, because pro-Israel Americans, sure, yet again, we do know that the biggest group of Zionists are actually Christian Americans. That is true. However, we do know as well that Israelis are able to hold double citizenship. And with that double citizenship, those pro-Israel Americans are not only Americans, but Israelis indeed. And I would say that we have to be very, very critical of such groups, of course, because if this group was not Israeli, but let's say Chinese or, God forbid, Arab, people would look at it in a very, very different type of way. So here we scroll down and we can read lobbying for pro-Israel policies. This is what this is about. We encourage the US government to enact specific policies that create a strong, enduring, and mutually beneficial relationship with our ally Israel. Yeah, that sounds all rosy, sounds all dandy, but the question is, of course, what is the mutual benefit here? What kind of benefit does America have by going to war for Israel? Then we scroll down again. The largest pro-Israel PAC in America. We stand with those who stand with Israel. The AIPAC PAC is a bipartisan pro-Israel political action committee, etc., you name it. So therefore, I'm staying as diplomatic as humanly possible here, of course. However, when Patrick Bet David proposed this hypothetical, what if or could it be? It's not what if, it's not could it be, it is a fact indeed that Israel has a grab over the American government.
This much power.
Well, they're not. It's an easy way out is to blame the Jews for everything. Yeah. So even Muslims, even when it comes to ISIS or terrorism, they say, "Oh, they're Jewish groups. Everything's Jewish groups. Oh, that's a false flag. That was the Jews. That was
yeah, well, this is how the far right and Zionism works. They simply throw out blanket statements. Yeah, well, you cannot blame everything on the Jews. Obviously, nobody is blaming everything on the Jews. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is a straw man that he is creating there. However, when you look into Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, yes, he was a potential Mossad agent, and we have a lot of proof for that. However, of course, nowadays, when you go through Google, potentially the first 3 or 4 pages, matter of fact, let me show you, are all results from Israeli outlets, such as here, the Times of Israel, INSS.org, Haaretz, etc. So you scroll down, Anti-Defamation League, which is an Israeli organization. So you scroll through here, and all of them will make claims, of course, that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was indeed a Muslim, was indeed an Arab, and had nothing to do with Mossad. So this is how the media is controlled, of course. And you can go through all of those pages, you will see. However, yet again, back to Tommy Robinson, he's making that blanket statement saying that all Muslims basically say that it's all the Jews' fault, and nobody has ever done such a thing.
terrorists, because it's nothing to do with us. That was Jews as well. Everything's the Jews. Now, with the anti-Jew hatred, I think Mein Kampf, Hitler's book, is 7% Jew hatred. The Quran is 11%. Take Israel out of the equation.
Okay, Tommy, please lay off the coke, dude. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. He's just throwing one straw man after the other, just one blanket statement after the other. Well, have you heard of Mein Kampf? That is hatred. And have you heard about the Quran? Yeah, well, that is hatred. Yeah, okay, man. So now, please go into previous videos of mine that I've done on the Bible and the Quran. I don't have to list it here yet again. If you want to see which book objectively is more violent, then it's not even a competition, because the Bible is much more violent than the Quran. But moreover, okay, let's do this then. If it comes down to anti-Jewish claims, let's have a look into the Bible and compare it to the Quran. Let's read Thessalonians 2:14 till 15. For you, brothers and sisters, became imitators of God's churches in Judea, which are in Christ Jesus. You suffered from your own people the same things those churches suffered from the Jews, who killed the Lord Jesus and the prophets and also drove us out. They displease God and are hostile to everyone. In Matthew 23:31 till 33, the Jews are addressed directly. So you testify against yourselves that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Go ahead then and complete what your ancestors started. You snakes, you brood of vipers. How will you escape being condemned to hell? Anyways, we could list source after source here, talk about the Crusades, talk about how Christians kicked the Jews out of their lands and not the Muslims. But who counts?
Muhammad hated the Jews. if Israel wasn't there.
Yeah, that's why he had a Jewish wife. Okay.
Now, I get called a Zionist, yeah? I get called a Zionist all the time. I have
He calls himself a Zionist.
this big... People attack me all the time, say I'm funded by... I've never received any funding. I just give my honest opinion. Israel is surrounded by totalitarian Islamic...
Shulman, did Shulman support you, or
No.
Robert Shulman?
I've never spoke to Robert
There was
Shulman in my
a
life.
story saying that he paid you $6,000 a month,
No.
or anything like that.
I worked, so and I had this with, so say like, who Daz Ziljan, whatever his name is he making money on YouTube? Because if
It's so easy to see that he's lying. You can see it on the facial expression.
he is, the owners of YouTube are Zionists, which means he's receiving funding from Zionists. That's what they've done to me. So I worked for Ezra Levan. I've never met Robert Shulman.
That's Sky News.
Ezra is a Rebel Media.
Rebel Media, yes.
Ezra's Jewish in Canada.
Right.
I worked for him.
Yeah.
It was £5,000 a month wage. Yeah. And because Bob Shulman gave
Which is
donations
a
or funding
Zionist
to Israel,
outlet, man.
I've never met him. Never had a conversation with him.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so you didn't meet the big boss, but you still worked for him.
So because he
What
gave
the
them
hell?
money and I took away from them, it's exactly the same as, in fact, any company. If you pick any company and you look somewhere, there'll be some Jewish person involved in it. They'll say, oh, you're receiving funding from Jews.
Okay, Tommy, but this is dangerous because now you're proving the point here, right? He's saying that any company has ultimately a Jewish person involved here.
That's what they done.
His
Now,
words,
what
not
are
mine.
you? What do you believe in? Are you a Christian? Are you a Jew? What would you say? Do you believe in God?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian.
I'm a Christian, yeah. I've been pushed more. So I used to say that I didn't believe. My mum was a Catholic, brought up. But then as I've seen the attacks on Christianity, and I've also seen the decay in British society, and the fall of Britain has come from the fall of belief. We have since we've stopped believing, and what built Great Britain? Christianity. What built everything about us, everything about our nation that everyone wants to come to it and make it a success was built on Christianity. Since that's descended, since it's been coming under attack, since people have left it, it's left a void, and that void's being filled. And if we want to understand and remember who we are, we need, as part of our identity, I say to some people, even if you don't believe in Christianity, you don't have to believe in Jesus. That's what built us as a nation. That must be protected. That's part of our identity. But when it comes...
Yeah, and this is truly why the far right won't succeed in the long run, because they're trying to build their foundation on lies or on something so weak, so meek, that they don't even truly believe in themselves. So he is appealing to utility here. Christianity worked, Christianity built empires, this is who we are, etc., etc. But ultimately the question becomes, of course, do you truly believe it, right? Do you believe in the Trinity? Do you believe that Jesus was or is God, God himself, the second person of the Trinity? And matter of fact, we're entering a time now where people simply can't believe it any longer. It was different back in the day when they didn't have enough access to the theology. They simply went to church, they had their holidays, and their kingdom imposed Christianity onto them. But now, truly, the question is, do you believe it? And people don't believe it, and this is why you see this humongous apostasy within Christianity. I showed you this graph in previous videos, but here for good measure, globally, Christians and Buddhists experience the biggest losses via religious switching. So out of all the religions, you can see that Christians take the biggest L, the biggest loss, with minus 11.6 people per 100. So meaning almost 12% of Christians do drop out of Christianity. But now I do have to agree here, at least partially, that Christianity in itself is most definitely the better belief system than liberalism. That is for sure. Since you see the rise of liberalism within your secular countries, since then you see degeneracy just being rampant. OnlyFans, failed marriages, cheating, yada yada yada. I don't have to tell you what is wrong with the West, and that is based on the rise of liberalism, feminism, etc. So therefore, yes, a Christian society would be preferred. I absolutely agree here. However, it is not ideal, because I make the very inflammatory claim here that Christianity is monotheism light. Sure, you can find monotheism within the Bible, you can find it within the doctrine, the only true God is the Father, etc., etc. But matter of fact, no. Ultimately, Christianity stays monotheism light, monotheism for the little children that cannot really let go of the Roman Empire's paganism, and they have to still worship a man. And this is why Christianity is failing in this modern day and age, because people now have access to information and they understand, okay, if I subscribe to religion, shouldn't I simply worship God alone? Shouldn't there be a law in place that God ordained? Check. Islam has it both. Yes, we do believe in only one God, and we do believe that God, Allah, brought us the law that we can then follow.
Comes to the Israel and Jew things, I think Qatar, if you look at Qatar spent nearly £750 million in funding Islamic organizations across Europe. Yeah? Radical jihadist mindset. Qatar are behind it. They've been allowed to buy every port in our country. They own half of London. Our politicians have sold their souls to Qatar. Yeah? And Qatar come in. Now, what Qatar used to do in these
countries... Okay, show me the evidence. Show me KPEC, where Qatar has a lobby in England.
They used to fund little charities, Islamic charities, and they'd fund them to be on the streets calling for dawah.
Oh my God.
Well, that's gone. What is influential now? Influencers. Okay? Sneo. I watched Sneo convert to Islam, yeah?
Okay, this guy's all over the place, man. So Qatar was funding dawah. That's what they did, right? And what is so evil about that? We understand, Tommy, that you hate Islam. That is your prerogative. That is just your opinion, man. We get it. But at the same time, from an evangelical perspective, so if you have a Christian nation funding Christian evangelicals, simply spreading the good news of the Lord, then you wouldn't have any issue with that. Or if Buddhists would spread their message, etc., you name it. So therefore, Qatar was funding certain Muslims spreading the message of Islam. Evil.
I watched Sneo convert to Islam, yeah? I don't know why he's converted to Islam. He's gay. So he's converted to Islam. Sneo's gay. Well, I've watched a video from him saying, well, I wasn't sure if I was gay or not, yeah? If you're not sure if you're gay or not, Sneo, you're gay, yeah? It's pretty simple.
What's going on?
That's what he...
Okay, now Tommy made me curious. I want to see this as well. This is the only video I could find. Well, let's have a look.
Yeah, I thought I was gay. I watched gay porn. Bro, I went to a gay nightclub with my gay friends. I saw a muscular dude twerking, and I know that I'm not gay. It's not for me.
I went to a rave for the first time last night. I've never been to a rave before. It was queer night at the rave. There's fun for everyone. There's gonna be more gay guys than usual, and they're gonna be making out, but you get to still have fun. I don't have a problem. There's girls there, but the two friends I was with are kind of homophobic. They're standing around there like, nah, we gotta leave. I'm like, dude, we just got rejected from the first one. Close your eyes a little bit and find a girl. Like, you do not be comfortable around a couple gay people. Like, whatever. I don't have a problem. Dude, I'd rather be around a bunch of gay guys making out ignoring me than sweaty straight guys ignoring me.
Okay, and he takes that video as proof of Sneo being gay. I'm gonna talk about my past a little bit here without exposing my sins too much. But what Sneo said there is actually absolutely accurate. When I traveled to Australia over 10 years ago, I went to a town called Darwin in the Northern Territory. And in that little town, there was a gay club. And in that gay club, matter of fact, you had the most beautiful women. Now, admittedly, this is very, very shady, and nowadays I'm not doing such a thing anymore, but back in the day, in my Jahiliyyah days, yes, we would go to that gay club with my buddies and genuinely find the most beautiful women that were just out to have a good time. They had their guard down because they didn't expect straight guys in those gay clubs. So therefore, this is what Sneo said here. He said, ultimately, you go to a gay club, yes, you're surrounded by a bunch of gay dudes making out, that is true. However, it is even better than being surrounded by a bunch of straight, horny guys that are competing with you. And oftentimes going to the club, you end up into fights and whatnot and all kinds of really annoying things that you don't want to go through your night. However, if you go to a gay club, nobody is attacking you. Matter of fact, and I really have to laugh, if a gay guy is approaching you, you can simply treat him like a woman. You simply say, no, 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 and he takes off. That is it. And then you're left with a bunch of beautiful women. So therefore, yeah, Sneo, game recognizes game.
His words, not mine. So I'm going by his words, yeah? But I watch Sneo, and then he converts to Islam because it's become trendy. Remember, people like us telling the truth about Islam, we were attacked and silenced. And then Islam comes in with all its money, and it becomes very trendy, yeah? And it becomes trendy because all the money's coming and funding it. Now, Sneo converts, and then he goes and makes some video in Saudi Arabia, very well-produced video. He's drawing the American youth. You need to wake up in America, yeah? The same with Andrew Tate, okay? These people, in my view, so many of the people, I see these TikTokers now after October 7th, yeah? I saw a black TikToker in America, and she's got the Quran, and I've just decided to pick up the Quran and start reading it. I think, oh, fuck off. How much have you been paid for that? Yeah. So to get the influence with the next generation of youth.
Yeah, okay. So little self-reflection, man. This is really annoying. You've been accused of getting paid. But matter of fact, you did work for a Zionist organization. But okay, you've been accused of getting paid, right? So if those are just accusations, now you're accusing the other side of the same thing. Don't you see what you're doing, man? People accuse you of being paid by Israel, and now you're accusing people that are interested in Islam being paid by Arab countries. What is going on?
Do you know how many people converted to Islam when Andrew Tate converted to Islam? Do you know how many come out of prison holding the Quran?
Sure.
Do you know all these things? In my view, like this.
Okay, so first and foremost, people coming out of the prison and having converted to Islam. Matter of fact, people come out of prison and they became an imam. So yes, prison has that effect on you. When you're stripped of everything that you loved, now you're left with God alone. And yes, it is true. Many, many brothers have reverted to Islam in prison. But this was way, 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 way before social media. However, now, of course, it is obvious, it is true. If you have a pop culture icon such as Andrew Tate converting to Islam, he obviously will open up the door to a lot of more conversion. Surely his followers, they follow him in anything. They want to accomplish his lifestyle. And therefore, if he would have converted to Buddhism, probably many people would convert to Buddhism as well. But do you really believe, with Andrew Tate being your friend, he converted for the money? Andrew Tate has all the money he needs. Does he need to be paid off in order to convert to Islam? He started speaking about Islam very early on, and it is crystal clear to see that he recognized at least the utility within Islam and how it keeps away degeneracy from society.
This is, in my view, there's Matt, and especially with Sneo. If you want to pick up the Quran, pick up my Quran. It explains exactly how it is rather than theirs. But all of these people, the way they now reach the public, as in there are billions of pounds to be spent in order to convert people to Islam. In my town centre, there's a shop called Discover Islam.
I wish. That would be great.
It's a shop that's funded. Its sole purpose is to convert non-Muslims to Islam. And that's in every town and city across the UK. There's a
Yeah, matter of fact, just a little side note here, guys. Since I converted to Islam, I became a millionaire overnight, matter of fact. Since I said the Shahada, the Saudis, they asked me right away, hey, Bobby, Assalamu alaikum. Just give us your bank account details and we're going to make the transfer right now. Thank you very much for your work.
And they work with the council.
Yeah.
So if America do not wake up to the power and the influence coming in from the money from Saudi Arabia, they're going to convert your youth. And when they convert...
Yeah, exactly. Saudi Arabia is sending money to the Council of America. Yet again, it's not Israel with AIPAC. No.
Your youth through the prison system or on the streets, they're going to turn them so quickly and so fast against America and against your own culture and against Christianity and against the Jews. And so the whole Jew hatred thing, it's become fashionable. Do you know what's not fashionable? I get so much criticism, I think, I don't get any benefit from it. I'm just speaking the truth. When I grew up in Luton...
Oi. Okay, so Jew hatred is not socially acceptable, but it will become socially acceptable. However, Islam hatred, what's up with that, Tommy? You can just simply, openly hate Islam. You're using such a double standard here, you hypocrite, man.
The
what is
Islamic
this?
Jihadist Center is
Islamic
the old
Jihadist.
synagogue, okay? I have seen so much Jew hatred in my hometown. I remember there was a young family remembering the Holocaust, and it was on the anniversary of, they were having some date, and all the jihadists turned up, and the young family had to lock himself inside the town hall. I don't know any Jewish gangs selling heroin. I don't know any Jewish rape gangs raping their way through our country. I don't know any bad Jews. I know Islamic, out of control, jihadists, criminals, terrorizing our nation from one end of it to the other. And somehow they want to blame that on the Jews as well. So Dan is going for his next money shot. If you ask me, Dan Bilzerian, whatever his name is, like, he's going for the next. He knows it's, if you look at how many likes he gets from being against the Jews, blaming everything on the Jews.
Okay. Slow down. How is it monetarily profitable to attack Israel? you know that your accounts get frozen, you lose your reputation overnight, you get publicly slandered, you lose brand deals, etc., etc. Matter of fact, there have been headlines that Bilzerian reveals an $800 million loss in business deals since speaking on Israel-Palestine conflict. So honestly, it doesn't matter which side you stand on, I believe that we can at least agree that publicly attacking Israel is not very lucrative, is it?
And you have a very, in America, it's more mainstream, but it's becoming mainstream in the UK as well. There's so many now. If I was Jewish, I'd be worried, really worried. I'd be really, really worried. So, of what's happening across France. No, I done a video.
I saw a video of Sneo. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, discard it. We'll leave it. I'm not saying edit it, but I thought I saw a clip that Sneo was tired of the way of being a Muslim himself. I may be wrong, Rob, if you can look.
And he was having a go because they're always stressing him how he has to live his life, yeah? Because he doesn't believe any of it. It's all bullshit.
What do you think Tate's reasoning is? Because, you've known Tate,
Yep.
For his brother stays being a Christian, but Tate leaves when he goes to jail and he says, the people that wrote me letters were Muslims, but not a single Christian person wrote me a letter when I was Muslim. Have you spoken to him about it or no?
So I believe Christian leadership has failed us. But I believe there's a revival happening right now in Great Britain. I want to make a mini documentary on it. Something's happening. Something big is happening. We went to our demonstration, 100,000 people, and there was a lad, and he had Christ is King banner. And
I would agree that Christianity has somewhat of a revival, but as we already stated and showed in the statistics, it is failing in comparison to Islam. That's just what it is.
the whole place was erupted. And then I looked as 100,000 people were chanting Christ is King in the middle of Trafalgar Square. This is unthinkable, unseen. Something's happening. When you have your loss of identity, loss of culture, and you feel at threat, people are looking back to where it's come from. But the church leadership are traitors to us, in many of them. We need masculine Christianity. I think with Andrew Tate, he's a chess player. And I think that when he was deplatformed, I'd love to have a discussion with Andrew Tate personally on it. We're going to disagree on a lot, me and Andrew Tate. We go back years, but we're going to disagree on a lot. Because I think that when Andrew Tate, he made a comment that he didn't realize the influence he had when he used to make videos. And this is when he got deplatformed. And if he could do it again, he maybe think more careful about what he's saying. Yet there he is telling people and drawing people to Islam. Now, if Andrew Tate now decided he didn't believe in Islam, didn't believe a word of it, he can't even come out and say it. They'll kill him. He can't become the most famous apostate in the world. He'd be dead. They want him more than they want me.
Who's going to kill him?
100%. He'd be the biggest target.
Alright guys, and this is it for today's video. I'm going to cut it off here. It is long enough as it is. Andrew Tate, watch your back. They're out there to kill you. Yeah, sure. Alright guys, but this is it. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the links in the description box below to further support my work. And check out my new ebook, The Return, in which I talk about my journey from Orthodox Christianity to Islam and everything in between. It is an absolutely phenomenal read for anybody even questioning their own religion, their own cultural upbringing, and they have a little bit of curiosity about Islam, or maybe they hate Islam, just like Tommy Robinson. It is for those people as well. Alright guys, but this is it for today's video. As always, may Allah bless you all. Much love and peace.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي